Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. India has bid adieu to the old Parliament building which has served this country for the better part of over 100 years. From tomorrow, all the premier legislative business in this country will be run from the new Parliament building. And one of the most significant pieces of legislation that could be brought in this special session of Parliament that is running through to Friday is the Women's Reservation Bill. Now remember, this is not the first time that the Women's Reservation Bill is being brought before Parliament. It has happened at least on 4 occasions in the past, from the 90s to the 2000s, but all have been unsuccessful so far. Now, the bill has been hanging fire for the last 27 years. The 2 major parties, the BJP and the Congress, are in support of this bill. There are smaller parties that are opposed to this bill who have been changing their tune and changing the degree of their opposition from time to time. The question that we're asking tonight on Brass Tacks is, can and will the BJP be successful in delivering reservation for women, whether it's in Parliament or in legislative assemblies, when other parties and other governments who have been in power in the past have failed?
ये सत्र छोटा है, लेकिन समय के हिसाब से ये बहुत बड़ा है। ऐतिहासिक निर्णयों का एक सत्र है।
सभी की इच्छा है कि महिला रिजर्वेशन का बिल आना चाहिए और महिलाओं को देना चाहिए जो ड्यू है।
इनका पास बहुमत है और ऑर्डिनेंस पे ऑर्डिनेंस ये करते जा रहे थे, तो ये महिला रिजर्वेशन बिल, विमेंस रिजर्वेशन बिल विद फुल मेजॉरिटी अभी तक क्यों नहीं हुआ, यही प्रश्न है।
ह्यूमन रिजर्वेशन बिल पार्लियामेंट में आना चाहिए और सबका समर्थन के लिए हम लोग सारा भारतवर्ष में हर मुख्यमंत्री के पास नवीन बाबू भेजे थे, हमारे मिनिस्टर डेलीगेशन जो है हम लोग गए थे। हम लोग तो बहुत दिन से हमारा ये डिमांड है।
पहले भी मीटिंग्स में डिमांड हुआ है, गवर्नमेंट अपने एजेंडा से चलता है और अप्रोप्रिएट टाइम में अप्रोप्रिएट डिसीजन होगा।
All right, so like I said at the top, this is not the first time that a government of the day is trying to pass the Women's Reservation Bill by bringing it in Parliament. If you go back, this was first tabled way back in 1996, close to 30 years ago, when Deve Gowda was the Prime Minister, the United Front government in 1996. But they were not able to pass this. It lapsed with the dissolution of the Lok Sabha in 1997. Then the Geeta Mukherjee panel was formed, which made 7 recommendations, basically the modalities to go about how the reservation will be recommended. Then in 1998, the bill was reintroduced. When Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Prime Minister, it was brought again in the Lok Sabha. This time, the bill failed to get the requisite support and it lapsed again. Then from 1999 to 2003, when again Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister, the NDA government's first full term, the bill was reintroduced by the NDA government, but they were not able to pass it through in either house. It failed to get the clearance from the Lok Sabha. Then in 2008, when the UPA was in power, the bill was passed, the bill was tabled in the Rajya Sabha, not in the Lok Sabha. In fact, the government made or implemented a couple of suggestions that were made by the Geeta Mukherjee panel that was included as part of that bill. The debate went on for a number of weeks. Finally, in 2010, that bill, which was introduced in the Rajya Sabha, was passed in the Rajya Sabha, but unfortunately, the UPA government could not muster enough support to pass the Women's Reservation Bill in the Lok Sabha. Now, the point is, what has been the status of women when it comes to representation in Parliament or in state assemblies? Because there is a case to be made as to why women have been underrepresented in the highest temples of democracy, as it were. If you look at every election, Lok Sabha election from 1999 onwards, the number of seats where women candidates have contested, to their winning record. And if you look at it, in 1999, women candidates were fighting in at least 284 out of 543. In 2004, it goes up to 355. In 2009, it's 556. Here, of course, 668 and 726 if you include the number of women candidates. So the total number of candidates has consistently been increasing. And so has the number of women candidates who've been winning Lok Sabha elections. But 78 is the number that currently stands in the Lok Sabha. That is a mere 14% of the Lok Sabha. Similarly, in the Rajya Sabha, the numbers have been increasing, but increasing ever so slowly. In 2012 election, there were 24 women MPs in the Rajya Sabha. In the 2023 election, the latest cycle that just concluded some months ago, there are now 31 women Rajya Sabha MPs. Again, it's an abysmal record in terms of percentage. It's only 13% of the Rajya Sabha. So clearly, while the representation has been going up, it's been so incremental that it is really of little value or less value, because ultimately, if women represent 50% of the population, then their representation in Lok Sabha cannot be 15%. So where is the hold up? Why are parties, or which are the parties that are reluctant to support or have been reluctant to support a women's reservation bill in the past? The Samajwadi Party, they have opposed this in the past. The RJD has also opposed this bill in the past. In fact, up until 2010, and so did the JDU, by the way, up until 2010, the SP and the RJD, in fact, had asked the government to restrict the reservation for women to 20%, not 33%. The Janata Dal United, the Bahujan Samajwadi Party in the past, the JMM also in the past has been opposed to the women's reservation bill. Basically, the point of opposition for these parties, many of them active in the North Indian heartland states, they want reservation for SC and ST women within the women's quota. So in a sense, a quota within a quota is what they are asking for, and that is where it failed last time. There was an attempt that was back in 2010. Now, let me open this up. First of all, are we even sure that this is the historic bill that the government is planning to bring? Yes, the Prime Minister said it's a short session by way of duration, but some historic decisions will be taken. So is it the women's reservation bill? Could it be something else? And most critically, why should we believe that the Modi Sarkar will be able to succeed where other governments in the past have failed? Now, remember, to achieve this, you need to be able to pass this in both the houses, both the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, and then of course the President gives her assent. GVL Narasimha Rao is Member of Parliament of the BJP. We have a full MPs panel tonight joining us. Priyanka Chaturvedi is Member of Parliament of the Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray. Also Dr. Shantanu Sen, TMC Member of Parliament. Jebi Mathur is Congress Member of Parliament, and Dr. Karimuru Somu is DMK Member of Parliament. GVL Narasimha Rao, as I outlined, there have been instances, multiple instances in the past where governments, including the Vajpayee government, tried to bring the women's reservation bill in 96, in 98, in 99, in 2008. Unfortunately, none of these governments have been able to pass the women's reservation bill for one reason or another. Why should we believe, why should the viewers of this program believe that the Modi government will be able to get it passed?
Your discussion, we could have waited for a couple of days to know exactly what is going to be on the legislative agenda in this special session. While women's reservation is something that we are committed to, we have mentioned it in our manifesto, we supported it in Rajya Sabha, we got it passed in Rajya Sabha in 2010, and all those leaders, including Sonia Gandhi, who are suddenly waking up, they had 4 years when they were in power, and they did not certainly want to even introduce this in Lok Sabha. Things would have been possibly different, even if these things could have got passed even then. So certainly, as a matter of commitment, I think we are certainly in favor of greater representation for women in politics, also in legislative houses, and we are possibly the only party having organizational reservations where we have at least 1/3 of organizational posts that are reserved for women, unlike other political parties. So certainly we are committed to it, but I think I would rather like to hear from other parties which have opposed it in the past on some pretext or other, and reasons for their opposition and what is their stand today. Our stand remains in support of it. We have supported it in the past. We continue to believe it's an important issue that this nation needs to address sooner or later.
So let me ask Priyanka Chaturvedi, the Shiv Sena has in principle always backed the idea of women's reservation, 33% for legislatures, whether it is state assemblies or of course the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Now, where is the hold up? There are some parties, I listed a few names, SP, JDU, RJD, etc., who say what happens then to OBC women or SC/ST women, they want sub-quotas within that quota. What is the Shiv Sena's position on this, and will you still support the women's reservation bill if it were to be brought by the Modi government in the next day or two in this special session?
So firstly, it is really unfortunate that we are discussing something which could not really happen. We are only making conjectures. This is only speculation based. Till now, as a member of parliament from the opposition, I do not know what the agenda for the special session is. And this is mere speculative debate that we are having. Having said that, I would say, as far as Shiv Sena is concerned, I said this on the floor of the House, and I think Mrs. Gandhi from the Congress party also has said it multiple times, that you enjoy power and full power as in terms of majority, single party majority. You had made this commitment in your manifesto, and if you choose to bring it, if you choose to introduce it in the floor of the House, we will wholeheartedly support it. So there is nothing that is stopping the government from bringing in this bill. And going back to, oh, why did they not introduce it and why we are introducing it, I think that again is a conversation which is quite ridiculous, because they enjoy a single party majority after years, after probably Mr. Rajiv Gandhi's era. This was the first party which got a full majority in the parliament.
But to get it past, Priyanka Chaturvedi, especially in the Rajya Sabha, not so much in the Lok Sabha, but especially in the Rajya Sabha, the BJP can't do it on its own. It needs the support of other parties. So which is why I come back to
let me repeat to you.
Yes.
Let me repeat to you two things very clearly. The opposition parties in principle are totally in favor of a reservation bill for 33%. Now part 2. The part 2 concern is this going to be effective immediately once it's passed, or are you doing this for a 2029 once they assume a delimitation will happen in 2026? So it is something which is like an IOU receipt. Okay, we have passes, but you will get this ability to represent yourself in the parliament in the year of 2029.
No,
that is something that we are waiting to understand what the bill would be and when will it be implemented.
Because the draft of the bill has not been made available to any of us.
So I'm also coming up with the speculation.
Yeah.
The speculation also says it will be implementable in 2029 after the delimitation happens. So those are questions which the BJP will have to answer.
Let me ask J.B. Mathur, in principle, and I just want to put out these data points, in the 2019 general election, 716 women candidates contested, out of which only 78 were elected to the 17th Lok Sabha, which is an abysmally low 15% of the entire strength of the House. Now, I want to ask you, J.B. Mathur, as a woman legislator, as a woman parliamentarian, and a party that was headed by a woman for a very long time, the Congress party also attempted to bring the women's reservation bill. You were not able to pass it through in the Lok Sabha. What is the opposition that you have to this bill, or is it the fact that the Modi government is bringing this perhaps in the fag end of its second term, and that is the opposition, not so much the merits of the bill itself? J.B. Mathur.
Let me make it very clear that Congress party's stand regarding the women reservation is very, very clear right from the beginning. It's a baby of UPA. Like it's a fact that in Rajya Sabha it is passed. Now, if you the question you asked is that we are opposing because Modi government is bringing it. First of all, we all are in dark. There is total secrecy. There is absolutely not a single line, a single word which we have received anything about the agenda, or whether it's a women reservation bill or something else. The opening statement made by BJP MP itself is self-explanatory. He said that, oh, we should have waited for some more time, which means even as from the ruling dispensation, MP itself is not clear as to when or what is going to be coming. So how much more do they want us to wait? Firstly, 9 years, we are at the fag end of this NDA's rule, and then BJP MP itself says we should have waited some more time. Secondly, other than this historic decision and the bus and this all kinds of guessing, why are they so reluctant? See, this is not a Bollywood suspense thriller or a Hollywood movie. This is Parliament and democracy's epitome of, Parliament. Democracy is Parliament. There should be openness. Why the secrecy? When the special session is called, there should be clarity on why it is called. Okay. Till now, session 1, day 1 is over. We have no idea. But we want to make it very clear, Congress party is committed. Our Congress working committee passed the resolution yesterday. Today, Mallikarjun Kharge ji has spoken very clearly in the Parliament seeking that women reservation bill should be passed in this session itself. And right from the beginning, if you look at Panchayati Raj, Rajiv Gandhi's dream, which came into effect during P.V. Narasimha Rao ji's time, okay. And then in Rajya Sabha, who brought it? It was UPA, and we got it passed. So Congress party have no doubt. And now if you are saying we are opposing means that, unless we know what it is, we have absolutely no idea what it is about.
Fair enough. Like I said, none of us
there
have
is total darkness.
This bill listed in the contents of the Business Advisory Committee, or none of us have access to a copy of the draft of this bill. But this is what is being speculated. Basis, of course, what the Prime Minister today said, that while the session may be small, there will be some historic bills that will be passed. Now, I want to ask Dr. Shantanu Sen, and specifically because your party is led by a woman, she's the leader of your party, and the TMC has always backed the women's reservation bill. How much of this has to do with the fact that women consistently are becoming a very decisive vote bank, a vote bank that could swing elections? If you go back and check the 2019 general elections, Dr. Shantanu Sen, there are post-poll surveys, including the Axis My India exit poll, which suggested that the BJP was making significant inroads into what used to be a historical disadvantage for that party, that a significant number of women were voting for the BJP. You look at the 2020 Bihar Assembly elections. After phase 1, when everybody felt that the wind was blowing with the Mahagathbandhan, in phase 2 and phase 3, because of a differential of almost 5 to 6 percentage points, higher women voter turnout, that flipped the nature of the election, and it is the NDA that won. Are you worried that if the government were to bring this bill in this session, this would have a positive knock-on effect for the BJP in a constituency where it says it's already made serious inroads as per some of these exit polls from the past? And of course, the BJP is always tom-tomming about the women-centric development schemes like Ujjwala and Swachh Bharat, etc. Dr. Shantanu Sen.
Well, I take pride in saying that I belong to a party which is being headed by the only lady chief minister of the country, who has already declared 50% women reservation in the state panchayat election, and who is running so many welfare projects which are benefiting directly the entire women community, like for education upgradation, Kanyashree, for marriage, Rupashree, she is giving money directly to the beneficiaries in the name of Lucky Vandar, and so many projects. And these projects are indirectly stolen by the BJP leaders and other political leaders in their own states during election. On the contrary, our nation India is being run by such a political party. The supreme leader of that political party releases the rapist of Bilkis Banu on the day of independence. Our country India is being ruled by such a political party which speaks about double engine government, and in those double engine runs BJP ruled states. As per National Crime Record Bureau records, crime on women incidents are maximum in those double engine run BJP ruled states. Our country is being ruled by such a political party. The member of parliament of that particular party sexually harasses the women wrestlers who hold the flag of India high across the world. This is the irony of the story. BJP is famous for Hathras, Unnao, Balarampur. BJP is famous for crime against women, domestic violence, crimes against women, child women trafficking. All these incidents are taking place in much higher rate in the BJP
you've given a litany
and
of what is wrong with the BJP's record on women. But can you please answer the question I asked you, which is, are you worried that the BJP is going to steal your thunder in the sense that women have been a big vote bank for the TMC and for Mamata Banerjee? If the BJP were to pass this bill, then credit will go to them. Are you worried that that women vote bank will vote for the BJP in substantially higher numbers than we've seen in elections past, if this bill were to be passed?
Certainly not, because if they were having real good intention, they could have done it much before. Now people of the country across the country, they have made up their mind. They are ready to oust BJP, and they know that the final political bell for BJP has started ringing. And this India alliance, which they are afraid of, this India alliance is going to bring a real political, social and economical freedom for the people of the country and for the women section of the country as at large.
Okay.
People they know it very well. If BJP was having good intention for the women, basically they are the women haters.
Okay, BJP, so GVL Narasimha Rao, respond to that, and then I'll get Kanimuri Somu also. She's been waiting very patiently. Yeah, GVL, quick response, please.
Yeah, I think the TMC must be ashamed that they have a women chief minister, but dozens of women political cadres of the BJP are attacked, raped. Dozens of people are killed in panchayat elections. It is the most gruesome state, most badly governed state in the country. Panchayat elections or even parliamentary elections, you haven't seen violence even in states which have hitherto had a criminal record. But the TMC runs more like a criminal mafia and less like a political party, indulging, wreaking havoc, indulging in violence and not sparing even women. A women-led government not sparing women is a matter of shame, and TMC must be ashamed of their record. And as regards other questions, you see, this special session has been called. We have had a whole day discussion today. Haven't you understood what is the purpose of this session? Didn't the government really spell out what was the purpose of this session? The session was, today's discussion was about 75 years of India's parliamentary democracy. Everyone spoke on this, about our successes, our failures, and how we reminisce our own track record as a parliamentary democracy. Except the blot of the emergency, we have done well as a country, as a parliamentary democracy, and as we are moving to the new House of Parliament, new building of Parliament tomorrow, this special session has a very important significance. And as far as legislation is concerned, the government has already spelled out what was an agenda, and any other agenda that is cleared by the cabinet will come before the Parliament. What is unparliamentary? What is undemocratic about it?
No, the point that the opposition MPs were making is, if you are going to bring such a historic legislation, why are you not making that available to members of Parliament? I mean, clearly they would want to study the bill, they would want to deliberate upon the bill. But anyway, whatever legislation is to be passed, members will have a chance to read, discuss, debate, and then vote according to it. Okay,
so let me get decades does one want to study these issues?
Let me get Dr. Kanimuri Somu.
Are known to people.
GVL, give me 1 second. Let me get Dr. Kanimuri Somu. You know, one of the principal and fundamental reasons why the Women's Reservation Bill didn't go through last time, and I believe that sticking point is still there, and the India Alliance parties have to clarify on this because some of them are opposed to this. The idea of having a quota within a quota, that for women who are from SC/ST communities or OBC communities, within this 33%, you need to have further reservation. Now, this is something that Supreme Court has clearly said that you cannot have quota within quota. And even on a matter of principle, when it comes to, reservation for economically weaker sections, that quota is kept separately outside of the OBC quota and outside of the SC/ST quota. So why then is this point being stressed by your own alliance partners, Dr. Kanimuri Somu, that there has to be a quota within a quota?
See, whether we have quota within a quota is all secondary. First of all, DMK always supports the women reservation bill. In Tamil Nadu, from the time of Kalinga, we had brought in 33% of reservation, 50% of reservation in the local body elections, and which we have awarded to the women, and they have been contested and win. And we have been doing so many programs for the women, taking the college students, getting 1,000 rupees paid when they go for a post graduation, when they finish the 10th, and we give equal rights to women in the when it comes to the property of the parents. We give them education, we get them married. All these women oriented programs are so much so in Tamil Nadu, and current Chief Minister, who has brought about the free bus pass for the women and for the morning breakfast program, and recently which we launched, the 1,000 rupees for the women. All that has been there, and we are going to be definitely into support. My only question back to BJP is, they have 303 in the Lok Sabha, am I right? And they've been there for the last 4.5 years with 303. Why couldn't they pass the bill in Lok Sabha and bring it to the Rajya Sabha? Recently, so many bills in Rajya Sabha has been clearly passed with a clear-cut majority by them. When they can do for the others, why not for the women reservation bill? It is only after we form the India government, formation, only then they want to bank onto the voters. That's the reason they want to bring about the women reservation bill and bag up all the women's. But still, if it is good for the country, we will all support for it. It's not that just because BJP is bringing up the bill, we will not. That is one part. Next part, why do you want to keep us in dark? We are elected members. We would like to know what is going to happen. Even if we are going to celebrate the 75th commemoration of the parliament, yes, make it wide open. You are sending a message in the parliamentary bulletin just 2 days before, that is just 48 hours before we get a bulletin in the mail. Why not, when the Parliamentary Affairs Minister is announcing, he could have made it, yes, we are bringing this special session only to commemorate the 75th year of the Parliament. Well, welcomed. Nobody wants to say no. We all appreciated what was going on. We all participated. All the whole day went on well. Why do you want to hide? So the BJP doesn't have agenda. And one more thing I would like to find out. Once you call it a special parliamentary session, and next you name it 261, the 261st session. When you have a special parliamentary session, you cannot name them. It should be categorically two. Previously, we have had special parliamentary sessions for the 25th year, for the 50th year, and for the GST. And now, if it is going to commemorate only the 75th year, then we should call it only special parliamentary. Today, even our chairman, when the question was raised by our floor leader, Mr. Tiruchi Shiva, he said it is special session and 261st. How can it both correlate? So, it's only BJP, I think it's getting afraid of the India which has been formed, and they want to back the women vote. I think that's why the reservation
I want to
and
come back.
obviously a reservation into a reservation would not be possible.
I want to come back to that question, Priyanka Chaturvedi, that again this is another point. If this bill were to be brought, the India Alliance parties have to take a common stand, and there are at least 2 or 3 India Alliance parties who in the past, Samajwadi Party, RJD, JDU, who in the past have opposed the women's reservation bill for one reason or another. Do you believe that the India Alliance parties, all 26 or 28 of them, are on the same page when it comes to women's reservation bill?
No, firstly, my question is this. Again, we are only speculating that they will introduce this bill and whether there will be support, whether they'll be able to pass it, because it's mere speculation. So I will not indulge in this speculation, oh, will all India parties stand together or not stand together. I'm not going to indulge in that. All I'm asking is this. If it was such an important bill, and a bill which has been pending over so many years, and BJP had to call a special session for it, do you think media, they wouldn't have shared their agenda with the media, or wouldn't have shared the agenda with the country to start chest thumping from the very day they started the special session? So if there is this dagger and cloak theory and then saying, oh, we might pass this, what is the top secret? This is a long overdue, empowerment tool for the women, which has been denied to them over the years. Speak about it, speak up, speak loudly, claim that you all are bringing this bill. The way that secretly it was done is very clear. This was announced, this particular special session was announced when the India summit was ongoing in Mumbai. They had been speculating whether the alliance will stick together or no. And all their hopes that there will be infighting, there won't be any cooperation, there wouldn't be coming together, different minds, has also put that to rest. So how do you distract people? You call a special session, you distract the media, you distract every attention that was given to the India summit, and ultimately what is coming across is that they did not have an agenda. They did not even call for a cabinet meeting before announcing the special session. They did not even take the opposition into confidence before announcing this special session. So this cloak and dagger approach clearly shows that there is no agenda, and they have no, I think they do not have the intention to bring this bill. And if they do, what would matter is what the bill includes and what it excludes.
Cloak and dagger situation, you've not kept the opposition in the loop. Even the cabinet is meeting after the session has started today.
Zaka, I think the fear and trepidation of the so-called INDIA alliance is evident on this panel. They seem completely flabbergasted. They seem scared. I don't know what is scaring them. Calling for a session is a right, parliamentary right of the government of the day. And a cabinet decision was made to call for the session. I think it's common sense. Every session is called. Anytime you want to call the parliament, it's a decision made by the cabinet, and the Honorable President of India summons the House based on the recommendation of the cabinet. This is common sense. And certainly, after the session begins, there is no embargo, no bar on cabinet meetings being held. They are always held while the parliament is in session. And while the parliament is in session, sometimes new bills are brought before the cabinet, cleared by the cabinet, and brought before both houses of parliament. All this is common. What is making them so jittery? I don't understand. Anyone who hears your debate will say they are actually not going to, they are going to have sleepless nights.
I think they both want to respond. Kanimuri Somu and Priyanka Chaturvedi both want to respond.
Any new bill that is brought, Jaka, you will be reading it before you comment on this. Nobody is going to be blindfolded to vote on a bill.
Kanimuri Somu and then Priyanka Chaturvedi
before Parliament.
Yeah.
Zaka, if it is going to be that much, they could have very well called in for the special or whatever they want to call this parliamentary session. They could have made everything open. Why no 0 hours? Why no question hours? Why no special mentions? Why no bills? Why it is not informed? That is a secrecy. See, they have no agenda. If they would have had all these things, you should have put it up. It should have come onto the portal of all the members. We would have been evident. Media would have known. We would have all been aware of what is going to happen for this 5 days.
No, but ma'am, there are 4 bills, as I understand, in the BAC, in the Business Advisory Committee listing that came out yesterday.
All the 4
there was press and registration bill, post office bill.
All the 4 bills for all the full days. All the full days foregoing the 0 hours, the special mentions, the questionnaires. You're going to forego all that and just sit and discuss only these 4 bills.
No. When you said agenda was not made available,
make it very clear. No.
Agenda was made available. Whether or not there will be more items to the agenda, that's a different question.
No. Listen, Zaka. Even yesterday in the meeting of all party meeting, when my floor leader, Mr. Tiruchishu, had asked what the agenda is, they said you will know it tomorrow. This was the answer given. Please understand, you will know it tomorrow. Tomorrow, the program is this 75th. This was the only business printed, and just on a sheet we got it saying it is 75th discussion. Okay, fine. Why not the BSA meeting? They discuss everything, all the bills which is going to come up. There's nothing hiding. You bring any bill, make it evident. Give it to the public, give it to the media, let all the speculations be there on the bill.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, quick response, and I need to go to Shantanu Sen and to Jabi.
No, quick, I'll make it very brief. He says we are all rattled, we will get sleepless nights, we will this, we will that, and he also said it's a prerogative of the government to call for a session as they feel like, when they feel like. But like I said, I've also told you the procedural lapses. Having put that aside, we have left, now Ganesha festival is a very important festival across the country. We have left that aside and we are all sitting in the parliament. Goes to show we are not rattled, but we are curious as to why something like this has been called. Second thing he said, rattled. I have not heard any of our members of the alliance call them BJ party or call them ND alliance, while they, starting from the Prime Minister, started with I.N.D.I.A, which all the media picked up and continues to do that. I have no grudges, I hold no grudges, that's the job you all are doing. Then they start calling it Ghamandi Alliance. Now Pradhan Mantri has started calling it India Alliance. We are not name calling, we are only putting people's agenda forward. So who really is rattled? Who announces a special session during the India Summit, ongoing summit? So please, don't give me this thing about India, we are rattled, we are sleepless. We are all absolutely wide awake and we want to know what really was the agenda for calling the special session.
So, Dr. Shantanu Sen, again, like I said in the opening part of the show as well, in 1996 when Deve Gowda was Prime Minister, this was introduced. In 1998 and in 1999 when Vajpayee was Prime Minister, this was introduced and it failed both on all three occasions in the Lok Sabha. In 2008 when the UPA was in power, it passed in the Rajya Sabha, and at that time when it was brought before the Lok Sabha, there were phrases that were used by certain leaders at that time who are now part of the India Alliance, which were not exactly charitable to women, which were actually pretty demeaning to women. Now, my point is, you are all now on the same page. You're all part of this same 28-party alliance. And those parties who are part of this alliance continue to hold that position, continue to say that we cannot accept the women's reservation as it exists in this current form unless there is quota within quota for OBC and SC/ST women, something that the Supreme Court of India has explicitly said that you cannot have quota within quota. Now, don't you think, Dr. Sen, that the onus or at least some explanation should be forthcoming from the India Alliance parties, all of them, as to where they stand on the women's reservation bill? And if they don't have a common position, then the country needs to know that there are some parties within the India Alliance who are not in agreement on the women's reservation bill.
Prior to that, I would like to remind you that our party, Trinamool Congress, you were talking about 14% women out of 543 MPs and all those. I would like to remind you that my party, by my Supremo Madam Mamata Banerjee, my party sent 35% women members of parliament. I repeat, we are having 35% women members of parliament from our party. That has been said. And with all humility, I beg to differ from what my learned colleague Priyanka ji said. The party BJP, which is a party which is outrightly an anti-woman party, and they are so much scared of India Alliance that they are in a mood to change the name of the motherland. You may not, but I will loudly say that yes, BJP stands for Bharatiya Jumla Party. That's why on the fag end of this second term of India government, when they are really listening to their final bell ringing, just to give some political gimmick, they are talking about bringing this women reservation bill. If there are really any good intention, they could have brought it much before. Again, I repeat.
No, but is that your only point of contention, Dr. Sen?
BJP party is women hater.
Is your only point of contention that they are bringing it at the fag end of their second term? Had they brought it any earlier, you would have wholeheartedly welcomed it.
We are also welcoming now. Our party is pro-women. I repeatedly said the so many social welfare projects launched by our party Supremo Madam Mamata Banerjee, which are benefiting the women community like anything.
Okay.
Whenever there is a question of women reservation bill, we have been demanding since long. Why BJP didn't bring it earlier? Why at the fag end of their tenure? And they know that this is going to be their last term. But take it from me, like the men, all the women of the country have also made up their mind that they are ready to oust BJP and they will be standing by the side of India Alliance.
Okay, so J.B. Mathur, the proponents who are against the women's reservation bill have put forth arguments. These are not new arguments, these have been there in the past as well. Number one, that it goes against the idea of equality, Article 14 and 15 of the Constitution. Number two, that unlike castes, women are not a homogeneous entity. There are some women who are educationally and economically better off than others, and therefore to have one community of women being given preference without going into economic strata or without going into educational background, etc., that may not serve the purpose. Also, you cannot separate women as a entity from other social, economic and political sort of factors that go in. And of course, the modalities of it, these 1/3 seats that you're going to reserve, are they going to be constant? Are they going to rotate? What basis are they going to rotate? And what happens to reserve seats, seats that are already reserved for SC reserve seats, ST reserve seats? What are you going to do to those seats when you're going to have both SC reservation and women's reservation?
All these factors are secondary. If they are determined, if they have some genuineness in what they have put in their manifesto of women reservation, first of all, the government should bring it as an agenda, table it and discuss it. Now we cannot say all these intricacies we cannot even discuss because we don't have a single line about this. We don't even know whether it will come. Secondly, if anyway the fact remains that they have not brought down, this is the 9th year and the final, we are going to the conclusion, and they have not brought is the fact. If they wanted, they could have brought earlier also, now also, but the fact remains that BJP has not taken women reservation bill seriously. Not seriously, have not taken it at all. Secondly, if there was the special session is called for, is what they are saying. If the bills which are listed, what is the urgency of that bills? Like it would have come in the normal course in the normal session. Why special session? When special session is called, special agenda should be there. But there's no special agenda is what we have been saying. Thirdly, another aspect which I would like to highlight is BJP want to camouflage from the real issues. Be it Manipur, be it unemployment, be it price rise. They just want speculation and they just want buzz around. They just want to make about historic decisions, and they want to put they want to cover up all these issues that matter so that there is no 0 hour, there is no whatever we want to raise it in the parliament, nobody can raise it also.
I'll give you the
so
final word.
So these 3 aspects I want to make it very clear.
Speculation one after another, from changing the name of the country to one nation, one poll. There are all kinds of speculative stories that are doing the rounds, including this latest one, the women's reservation bill. It's not like any of us in this panel can definitively say that this is coming or that this is the draft of the bill. So the point the opposition is making is BJP is creating all this hawa because you want to distract and divert attention from the real issues that matter to the people: unemployment, price rise, etc.
Zaka, I think when there were opportunities for the opposition to raise issues that really the issues of public interest, they ran away from debate, and I'm really amused, I would say, that they are talking about 0 hour, question hour, special mentions. Where were you in the last 2 sessions? Why did you not allow Parliament to function? Why did, even when both the House's presiding officers said we are willing to have a debate on Manipur, right on the very first day, why did you disrupt Parliament? And today suddenly you have great interest in 0 hour, question hour, special mention. You derailed Parliament, 2 sessions completely. And I think you have to go back and see your own track record in this. And then secondly, what is to be the purpose of this particular session, as was announced by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister on the day it was announced, was that we are entering a new Amrit Kaal. 75 years of independence we have completed. We would like to look back on our parliamentary democracy's performance, which is what we have done today. I don't know if all of you think what we did today is not worth it. Was it not a very important debate that we had today in Parliament, in the Parliament building that is that's going to become a previous Parliament from tomorrow? We are moving into a new House of Parliament tomorrow. We'll be operating from there. Don't you think it's a significant moment in India's history? Don't you think it's an occasion that calls for members of Parliament to meet in a special session? I think I'm at a loss to understand. They are expecting possibly some surprises. They are themselves developing a lot of curiosity. I request them to just hold on for a day. I think when you have business advisory committee, certainly whatever decisions are made in the cabinet will be announced in the BAC, and bills will be placed in parliament.
All right, Kanimu Sumo is raising her hand, so I have to wrap up in 30 seconds. Ma'am, yeah, very quickly, please. Thank you.
Yes, I am just answering only to BBL sir. Nobody ran away with the sessions and all going on. We wanted a detailed discussion on the Manipur, which the government was not coming forward for. They wanted a short duration discussion. In a short duration discussion, it's not mandatory that the minister will answer. But in a detailed discussion, when we give a notice, the minister should answer. That was the only thing. The whole opposition parties stood together. They were asking for Manipur. When they were not heaving ears for the Manipur session,
Minister
and
Amit
today they are
Shah wrote
talking about
letters saying
the
I will
75th
answer.
year. We are very happy to be a part of it. We are congratulating. Yes, all of us are celebrating 75th. Nobody is denying on that. Yes, we need to celebrate it. But the same respect should have given to the women of the Manipur also is the contention we should take back.
Okay, I got to wrap up, but thank you very much to all the members of parliament who joined us in this very special discussion. Like I said, the speculation seems to be around the women's reservation bill. Whether or not it will come to pass and whether or not it will pass muster in both houses, we'll still have to wait and see. Up next, in the wake of India's G20 summit success, I caught up with Chris Elms. He's a spokesperson of the US Embassy here in Delhi. I asked him about the achievements of the Delhi G20 summit. I also asked him about the criticism, especially from countries like Ukraine, about the dilution of the Delhi Declaration when it comes to language on the Russia-Ukraine war. And I also asked him whether this new proposed corridor between India, Middle East and Europe is a direct threat and a challenge to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy this interview. I'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. So, India has successfully hosted the G20, from a Delhi Declaration to this new economic corridor between India, the Middle East and Europe. There has been a whole host of announcements, but to try and assess what has been achieved and what remains to be seen, I'm now joined by a very special guest here at the offices of CNN News 18. Chris Elms is the spokesperson for the US Embassy. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Zakir.
So let's start off with the G20. It was a big sort of moment in the sun for India as the host, and of course ably partnered by countries like the United States. What do you make of the Delhi Declaration? Because even 12 hours before it got formally adopted, those of us covering the event were not sure that the declaration would actually get adopted.
So the declaration represents the culmination of a year of great meetings by India. India, as the host of the G20, did a fantastic job across the country. Not just the summit, but there were 4 working group meetings for each ministerial before the summit. So this was substantive. The declaration shows the breadth of the discussions that were undertaken during the meetings, and it shows that the G20 is the premier international economic forum, and we were happy to be here and pleased with the success that India had as host.
So specifically on the part in the declaration which deals with the Russia-Ukraine war, there has been some criticism, I think Ukraine has said this on record, that they believe the language was diluted. What would you say to that?
I'd say that the G20, every single member of the G20, reached consensus in favor of territorial integrity and sovereignty, and specifically on Ukraine. So the declaration itself represents a clear statement from the world community, from the 20 most powerful economies, that we must respect territorial integrity and sovereignty, something that I know is very important here in India. And so we were happy that this was a consensus-based agreement and one that every single member signed up for.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the role played by US government officials in helping achieve the Delhi Declaration?
I can't give you anything that was happening behind the scenes, but our Sherpas were hard at work, not just the day or two before, but for weeks. And so this was a statement that was hammered out over a long period of time and builds on all of the ministerials that led up to the summit.
One of the big announcements that happened on the sidelines of the G20 summit was this economic corridor between India, the Middle East, Europe, of course backed by the United States. Many are saying that this is perhaps the biggest and most direct challenge to the Belt and Road that China has initiated more than 10 years ago. What would you say to that?
I'd say this isn't about one particular country, but it is about a number of countries that came together on this, through India, the Middle East, and Europe. We're talking about a large swath of the region that's going to be connected through ports, through rails, and then through digital technology and energy over that. This economic corridor is layering economic opportunities, and what it's doing is it represents something that Secretary Blinken talked about last week on U.S. foreign policy, that we are weaving together our partners. The United States right now, through our diplomacy, is actively working to strengthen our partnerships and then weave them together. And this is a fantastic example of how we're weaving together a number of different partners to deliver results for the region.
Is there anything you can tell us about how it's going to be financed? Because there are questions being asked about, who's going to put in the money, and in any case, such heavy-duty infrastructure projects, corridors, etc., are very investment-heavy. So how is that going to work out?
So this builds on the Blue Dot Network, which was a G7 initiative on transparency in financing. And so the details still need to be worked out. What we signed at the G20 summit was a memorandum of understanding. So our teams will get together in the next month or two to sort through the details. But the most important thing about the financing is that it will be transparent. The citizens of the countries that are involved in this, the ones that it affects the most, they're going to be able to see the terms. They're going to be able to see transparently what debt are their countries signing up for. And that's what's important about this financing, is that the infrastructure is clear and transparent for the members.
So we also had the bilateral between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi just before the official G20 began. And they were taking stock essentially of the decisions made in the state visit, whether it's the jet engine deal or the Predators. Is there an update you can share with us on that?
I think it's exactly what you just said, that this was building on the Prime Minister's visit to Washington for the state visit. We had a huge joint statement that came out of that, dozens of paragraphs, and even just a few months later, we had another joint statement with plenty of substance to add on to that. Beyond just building on what was already mentioned, we announced new financing through our Development Finance Corporation for solar power and other activities. We announced an agreement between the IITs and the American Association of Universities. So we're finding ways, even beyond what happened at the state visit, for our countries to come together across a range of issues through our governments, through our people, through education, health, and other initiatives.
So talking about the G20 was the inclusion of the African Union, negotiators. I spoke to Jay Shankar, I spoke to some of the others in the negotiating team. They were also talking about how the emerging countries, Brazil, South Africa, India, Indonesia, they played a role in trying to get a consensus. How do you see the G20 becoming this, not just the voice of the global elite, but a more representative organization?
Absolutely. Thanks to India's leadership, the G20 delivered for the developing world. You saw the economic corridor that we just mentioned that is spanning across regions, but one of the other things that we discussed was how to build bigger, better, more efficient international financial organizations. So one of the big ones is the World Bank, now headed by the first Indian American, Ajay Banga. He was there with India, the United States, Brazil, and South Africa as the future leaders of the G20 to talk about the central role that financial institutions play in helping the developing world further get access to finance and develop.
All right. One of the things that happened on the sidelines was when the Chinese president decided to skip the Delhi G20. Was seen as a bit of a snub to the host nation. Do you think through the course of those 2 days in Delhi, world leaders came together to make some pretty important decisions and announcements, and China, for whatever reason it chose to, at least at the leadership level, if they're not part of the room, then they're lost. Do you believe that that message has gone out?
Absolutely. I can't speak to China why they didn't send their leader, but I know that those that did show up, the United States showed up. Those that did show up at the premier International Economic Forum delivered for their people. India, as the host, brought a lot of new excitement and energy to the process this entire year. The announcements, as you mentioned, with the African Union, it demonstrates that the world can come together, and we are delivering results for our people. So I can't speak for the Chinese government why they sat out, but those that showed up, the leaders of the G20, delivered for our people.
So all this talk of people saying that you're going to have the US and its partners in one corner and Russia and China in the other corner, and there's going to be this great power competition, new Cold War, call it what you want. You don't see that happening. The Delhi G20 has sort of reversed that to some extent?
Well, what I saw is, as you mentioned, the Delhi statement, it was signed by all 20 members. Everyone was participating for the entire year, but the leadership was those who showed up. The leadership was the United States, the leadership was India, and so I don't see the world moving on from this premier economic forum. What I do see is our governments coming together and, as I said, weaving partnerships together. The economic corridor you mentioned was not a Western or a global South agreement. It was India, the Middle East, Europe, the United States, a large swath of the world coming together through the G20 with India as host.
All right, so you were talking about leadership, and I do want to ask you this, and I know you refrain generally from commenting about domestic politics, but one of the leading candidates in the Republican race, Vivek Ramaswamy, there's a lot of interest in him here because of his Indian roots and so on. He's made an announcement about sort of revamping the H-1B visa program, and I want to know if you have any thoughts on that, any response to it.
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, his candidacy and the interest that Americans have in him, Nikki Haley, it shows the rising power of Indian Americans in the United States. And so there is increasing interest and respect for the power of the Indian American community in elections. On this specific proposal, anything that would happen to the H-1B program would happen through Congress. It's part of our Immigration and Naturalization Act, and so he's welcome to propose whatever he would like as a candidate. Ultimately, any changes that happen to our immigration law would come through Congress.
All right, and final word, since you're here, you know, where are we on visa processing times? Is it better than what it used to be before?
So
it's not 800 days anymore.
Well, what I can tell you is that we are working to meet the demand as best we can. We are finally at full strength. We have more visa officers today than we did pre-pandemic. We set a goal for ourselves this year of 1 million visas. We already passed 900,000. You're likely to see us hit 1 million in the next week or two. And so we're going to set new records for visas. We are bringing more officers out here, and we're setting records for the most visas ever given at the mission out here in India.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris, for making the journey all the way to our offices.
No, thank you for having me, Zach. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. The US Embassy spokesperson, Chris Elms, giving us his thoughts on the G20 and why the Delhi G20 and how the Delhi Declaration was brought about. Thank you very much for tuning in. But news and updates continue right here on CNN News 18.
The leader of the opposition in Andhra Pradesh, Telugu Party national president, has been illegally arrested and kept in the Rajahmundry prison without any evidence and without any proof. So we believe that it's an illegal arrest. We are moving the courts. Legal process